Hello, ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome to today's tutorial. Today we want to look at muscles in the leg region, but this time around in a transverse section. Now usually if it is a longitudinal section, yes, you tend to see the muscles clearly, and we're able to appreciate of course from their origin and insertion you can help you in identifying such muscles. But the difficulty comes when it's a transverse section. That is why I've taken my time to go through this, muscles in the leg region. Now get to know that for you to appreciate, these muscles very well, you have to also know that in the leg region there are three, compartments, and that's where the muscles are. We have the anterior compartment, we have the lateral compartment, and we have the posterior compartment. Now, the other thing too that you have to know is for you to know your landmarks very well. You have to know that there are two bones in the leg region, and these two bones are of course the tibia and of course the fibula. So one thing too that you have to appreciate over there is that the tibia is medial, okay, and it's longer and broader. So that's why if you take a transverse section through these bones, you can see that this one is quite broader compared to this one. Okay, so that's one thing that can help you in knowing your directions. So once I know there's a tibia, then I know it's going to be this is the medial aspect, and of course this is the lateral aspect. Now again, for you to know the anterior part and then the posterior part, okay, then one other thing too that you can actually know is that you can see the bone is more or less triangular shaped, but the anterior crest, okay, is quite appreciated over here. Okay, this one can be the anterior aspect because of course there's the medial. Okay, so the anterior crest is quite pronounced, even as well as that of the fibula, okay, pointing this way. But that is not enough for you to tell that this is the anterior and this is the posterior aspect. The important thing is that yes, the posterior aspect, the muscle, okay, is quite bulkier. Okay, so muscles over in the posterior part, because they are organized into superficial and deep groups, they are actually bulkier compared to what we find in the anterior and of course the lateral part. So with this, it's just enough for me to know that this is actually the posterior aspect, and this area becomes the anterior aspect. Okay, so it means that as I move towards this way, I'm going laterally. Okay, as I come this way, I go more medially. So that is one thing that we have to appreciate over here. Okay, now because these muscles, okay, in the leg there are two bones over there, tibia medially, fibula laterally. It tells us that there will be a membrane connecting these two bones. That will be an interosseous membrane. This interosseous membrane is more or less like serving as an intermuscular septa, separating muscles in the anterior compartment from muscles in the posterior compartment. So we're actually going to go through this to appreciate it. So I begin with muscles in the anterior compartment of the leg. Now these muscles, now get to know that this section is taking a bit, let me say, midshaft of the tibia and fibula. Okay, midshaft of tibia and fibula, but not going so down, okay, into the calcaneal tendon. That's not where it is taken. So it's taken at where we can see the muscle bellies. Okay, so in the anterior compartment we got to know that we are going to have tibialis anterior muscle. Now we got to know that the tibialis anterior muscle will run on the lateral aspect of what we call the tibia. Okay, lateral aspect. Okay, because there's more medial, there's lateral. So you can see that that's the first muscle that we're going to see in the anterior compartment. And I also said that that's the most superficial muscle, the most superficially placed muscle over there. So that's the tibialis anterior muscle. Now on the other side, which runs on the anterior shafts of the fibula, is going to be the extensor digitorum longus. Extensor digitorum longus. So please appreciate this one. Okay, extensor digitorum longus, running on the anterior shafts of what we call the fibula. Okay, that's extensor digitorum longus. Now I told you that deep, so when I reflect this extensor digitorum longus and also even reflect tibialis, anterior muscle, I'm going to see this muscle, okay, which is sandwiched between, extensor digitorum longus and tibialis anterior muscle. This muscle is known as extensor hallucis longus, going to the grade 2. Extensor hallucis longus. Okay, so that is one thing that you have to appreciate here, that extensor hallucis longus is deep to extensor digitorum longus. All right, now so these are muscles that we can actually appreciate over here. Now for peroneus tertius muscle, because it's not taking, now remember that one will take origin from a bit lower level of the anterior shaft of the fibula, but this one is taking a bit higher up, so you can't see peroneus tertius muscle. In any case, peroneus tertius muscle is absent in most individuals. So these are the muscles that you are going to appreciate if it's a transverse section. Okay, now so having seen this, now you get to know that muscles in the anterior compartment of the leg will be supplied by what we call the deep branch of the common peroneal nerve. So you see this one is the common peroneal nerve over here, actually the deep branch of the common peroneal nerve. Okay, and of course we know that it will be supplied by anterior tibial artery, and of course drained by anterior tibial vein. Okay, so that's why you see them here. Okay, now they will come, these are structures which will be in front of what we call the interosseous membrane. They will run in front of the interosseous membrane. So that is that one. Now we go to the next muscles. Now these next muscles in the lateral compartment, now there's the fibula. So as you go on the lateral aspect of the fibula, okay, running laterally over there will be what we call the peroneus muscles or the fibularis muscles. Now I told you that the superficial muscle in the lateral compartment of the leg will be peroneus longus muscle. Okay, so as you get closer to the skin, then you know this is a superficial muscle. Now as you get closer away from the skin, get into the bone, you have what you call the peroneus brevis muscle, the short muscle, which were very important in eversion of the foot. Okay, get to know this. So that is that one. Now we will have what we call an intermuscular septum, so that I can separate muscles in the lateral compartment of the leg from muscles in the posterior compartment of the leg. Okay, so this area, okay, where we have a lot of muscles over here is actually the posterior compartment of the leg. I've told you why. For these areas where we have the muscles organized into a deep group and of course superficial group. So the superficial group, we said there were 3, but we are not going to see one of them. We are not going to see what we call popliteus muscle. Sorry, we are not going to see plantaris muscle. Plantaris muscle will have a very long tendon, will have a very short belly. So we are not going to see that one here. So I told you that in the posterior compartment they are organized into superficial group and a deep group. For the superficial group, you can appreciate 3 of them here. Now over here, okay, because this, as you move this way, is the lateral aspect, this is medial. So these muscles represent what we call the gastrocnemius muscle. Okay, the muscle that forms the stomach. That's regard that the stomach of the leg, posterior aspect of the leg. So because this is more medial, this is the medial head of the gastrocnemius muscle. This is the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle. Okay. Now, then when I cut and reflect the gastrocnemius, then I will get what we call the soleus, having just a single origin, single belly, soleus muscle. Okay, where is flat, resemble the soleus fish. Okay, so that's the soleus muscle. Now, one thing is that right now we've seen 2 of them. Plantaris, we are not going to see it. Now the remaining muscles are the deep muscles found behind the interosseous membrane. Behind the interosseous membrane. Now I told you that the deepest, okay, of these muscles, which were actually somewhere between 2 other muscles, was the tibialis posterior muscle. Tibialis posterior muscle. Okay, tibialis posterior muscle. And then on the lateral aspect, on the medial aspect, okay, of what we call the tibialis posterior muscle, okay, will be what we call flexor digitorum longus. Now remember that there's some kind of twist, because on the lateral aspect of what we call tibialis posterior muscle, we are going to have what we call flexor hallucis longus muscle. So it's surprising that we know that the hallux, that's the toe, is more medial, but it's actually originating on the posterior shaft of the fibula. But I told you that it's going to give a turn to actually insert into the base of the first metatarsal. Okay, so please get to know that distal aspect of actually the phalanx, distal phalanx of the grade 2. Okay, the base of the distal phalanx of the grade 2, flexor hallucis longus. So this one is going to be lateral. Then this one, flexor digitorum longus, is going to be medial. But of course, we know that yes, the muscles in the posterior compartment of actually the the leg region will be supplied by what you call the tibial nerve. Okay, tibial nerve, which is a branch of the sciatic nerve, as well as of course will be supplied by what you call posterior tibial artery, drained by of course posterior tibial vein. Okay, that's what we are going to see. Now I told you that in the posterior compartment of the leg, separating it, okay, from separating the deep muscles and the superficial muscles of the posterior compartment of the thigh will be a band of fascia. Okay, so that's what we call forming actually what you call the transverse intermuscular septum. Transverse intramuscular septum. So if you talk about transverse intermuscular septum, is the band of fascia which is actually separating the deep muscles, okay, from the superficial muscles actually in the posterior compartment of the leg. Well, there could be other subcutaneous. Of course, we saw in the thigh region that there was this great saphenous nerve, or the saphenous nerve actually, and then we also have the great saphenous vein, okay, being subcutaneous actually. And then of course in the posterior, in the area of posterior leg, we have the sural. So of course the sural nerve and vessels will be there. Now, but one thing I didn't show you, in the lateral compartment of the leg, we are going to have this yellow structure over here, okay, which is actually the superficial branch of the common peroneal nerve, which will supply the peroneus longus and of course peroneus brevis muscles. So I hope you find this tutorial helpful, okay, so that in transverse sections, you don't find quite much difficulty in actually appreciating the structures in the leg region. Thank you very much, and may God richly bless you.